Ohai. Island, the state in Western Europe borrowing. She part of the island of Ireland. In the north borders on Northern Ireland. It part of Great Britain. The area -70.2 thousand km. The name of the country happens from Irish state. The capital, the city of Dublin, in which about a quarter of the population of the whole country, 1.4 million people, lives. Member of the organizations. Council of Europe, 1949. U. 1955. Ode, 1960. European Union, 1973. Euratom, 1973. European Currency System, 1979. World Trade Organization, on January 1, 1995. 4 Article of the Constitution of Ireland, accepted in 1937. State. The name of the state, Ireland, in English, Ireland. In 1947, the name Republic of Ireland is the description of the state. Description of the state was accepted. Ireland remained his name still just. It is connected with the claims for all Ireland filed in the Constitution. The territory belonging to the people consists of all island of Ireland, islands adjoining to him, and the territorial sea. Article 2. Since 1998, as a result of the Belfast Agreement, the text is replaced with more neutral. However, in different spheres, official and informal, for difference of the state from the British Northern Ireland and Ireland in general, the name Republic of Ireland is widely used. Ireland occupies about 83.5% of the island of the same name in northeast part of the Atlantic Ocean and adjacent small islands. The island of Ireland, western of 2 largest British Isles, it is located between 620E-1020E Elbel and 5125E-5523 En. From the east it is washed by the Irish Sea and also Strait George's Passages and Severn, from the south the Celtic Sea, and from the west and the north open waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Extent from the west on the east about 300 km, from the north on the south about 450 km. The highest point Mount Carantwell, 1041 m. The total area of the territory about 70.2 thousand km. Extent of border with Great Britain -360 km. Ireland is the 3rd largest country of Europe from completely located in the Western Hemisphere after Iceland and Portugal. Climate of Ireland, moderate sea. Near the western coast of the island there passes the warm North Atlantic current, which together with southwest winds from the Atlantic Ocean brings warm and damp air masses. Winters are rather soft and summer cool. The warmest month of year, July, with the average air temperature of 18-20 degrees. The coldest month, January, which temperatures fall up to 7-9 degrees. On average in a year about 1200 mm of rainfall, however their distribution across the territory unevenly drop out. The greatest values are characteristic of the western part of the island, thanks to influence of the sea. Their quantity can reach 1600, while in the east and in the central part of the country about 800, 1000 minodit. Coast of Ireland, especially in the north, the south and the west. The rocky, strongly dismembered by gulfs, the largest of which, Galway, estuary Shannon River, Dingle and Donegal in the west, Lough Foyle in the north. Near coast of Ireland there is a set of rocky islands. The source is unspecified 1674 days. Landscapes, generally flat. Internal areas are occupied by the extensive central lowland, in the west and the east leaving to coast of the island. On the outskirts of the island, low mountains. The highest point, Mount Carnshaw, 1041 m. And the plateau. The largest Antrim in the northeast. According to classification of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, Ireland is divided into two ecoregions. The Celtic broadleaved woods and the North Atlantic mixed woods, though actually the wood occupies no more than 12% of the territory of the island. The big share of a surface of the island is occupied by meadows, vereshitnik, are available as northern, alpine plants and the types characteristic of southern Europe. As a rule, they grow in the west of the island. On the central lowland cespitous and podzolic soils, in mountains, mountain podzolic, on badly trained plateaus and in lowlands, peat and marsh prevail. On limestones, humus and carbonate soils meet. Ireland is called sometimes the Emerald Island because of abundance of vegetation which remains green all the year round thanks to steady rains. Historically, there was a situation at which in Ireland there was never a heavy and ecologically harmful industry. The only source of pollution which is present at the country, waste of agriculture which lead to pollution of waste and river waters in a number of regions of the country. Citizens of Ireland consider property the nature and her ecological state, and take measures for reduction of impact of the person on an ecological condition of the environment. Sorting and waste recycling. Non-use of disposable packages in supermarkets. High taxes on cars which are capable to pollute the environment. Another. For example, it is possible to receive very essential penalty for the garbage thrown on the street out of especially for this purpose the provided places. As a result, all this does Ireland by the environmentally friendly island, even against the background of enough safe other European countries. The system of national parks of Ireland displays typical and unique natural landscapes of the island. Parks in number of 6. Ballycra Burn, Glenveck, Killarney, Connemara, Wicklow Mountains. Are operated by the government agency, Service of National Parks and Wild Nature. English, the National Parks and Wildlife Service. The purpose of this organization is creation of a system of nature protection zones which represents all variety of the nature of Ireland. Tasks of the agency: maintaining integrity of ecosystems, a biodiversity and granting an opportunity for visit of parks and studying of the nature of Ireland to everyone. The first people occupied Ireland in the period of Mesolith, in the 9 millennium BB. Not a new Grange, which are nowadays entering the list of cultural heritage of Ireland, are considered as the most ancient traces of life. According to genetic researchers, Irish are descendants of the farmers from the Mediterranean who destroyed the most ancient population of the Emerald Island, and also cattle farmers from Black Sea coast. The Black Sea immigrants, the Indo-Europeans who brought the language and genes of hemochromatosis and also the genes allowing to acquire lactose and to drink milk. The similarity of genomes of people of a Bronze Age in modern Irish, Scots and Welshmen demonstrates that by 2000 BC, there were main characteristics island differing from Gaelic, a genome of Celts whose descendants can be considered the Irish people. One of the first mentions of a civilization of Ireland is a mention at Pyfie, the end of the 4th century BB. In Irish, the Decaltsky population of the territory has many loans. The name of the island in Irish, Éire, Earl, Éire, Ire. Ancient Irish lived certain tribes, clans under control of hereditary leaders, together owned the earth and were engaged almost only in cattle breeding. Ireland wasn't a part of the Roman Empire, but she is mentioned by the Roman historians. Ptolemaeus Tacitus Juvenal. The ancient capital of Ireland. Till the 12th century, Tara is considered. The first Christian burials of Ireland belong to the end of the 4th century. Archaeological finds demonstrate that Christianization of Ireland began rather with the south, but not with the north, where Saint Patrick, to whom usually attribute Christianization of Ireland, acted. The Gallo-Roman, the sacred Palladium, put in a dignity by the Father Celestin in 431, was the first bishop of Ireland. According to Prosper Akvitansky's Chronicle. According to legends, his mission was unsuccessful, he got sick and died, having returned to Britain. In Confession, Saint Patrick mentions thousands of baptisms made by him. Confesses that gave presents to kings and judges in lands where he was especially often, but says that refused aid, bribe and gifts. He mentions that he once with the satellites 2 weeks was imprisoned in shackles. The initial flock of Patrick, judging by the people mentioned in Confession, consisted generally of youth, women and slaves, that is, from enough marginal sectors of society. The annals by Four Masters are mentioned that he founded 600 churches. On other sources, there was 300 churches. And the Irish who hosted from him a baptism more than. In 1991 S5. Shkuneev, referring to St. Patrick's life, authorships to Merk Makumakteni. No Kumaktini. I assumed that Christianization of Ireland happened with assistance of St. Patrick. Local aristocrats, landowners on model Indian revolts, that contradicts the marginal theory of Christianization. It is difficult to judge in general process of early Christianization of Ireland as the literary monument of the Irish Church legislation following after works by Patrick, the First Synod of St. Patrick was made only in the middle of the 7th century. Ireland wasn't affected by the civil wars and invasions of Germans accompanying disintegration of the Roman Empire that contributed to the development in the early Middle Ages of written culture and education. Soon after the baptism of the country, the first compositions in Latin appear. Since the beginning of the 7th century there is literature on Trevnor-Lansky. In the 6th century Ireland became the centre of the Western learning. Our monastic schools left preachers of Christianity on the continent. The monastery on the island of Ion became one of the main cultural centers. The Irish monks made a significant contribution to maintaining Latin culture during the early Middle Ages. Ireland this period was famous for the arts illustrations to handwritten books. See the Kelski book. Work on metal and a sculpture. See Celtic cross. The significant damage to the Irish culture, economic and political stability of the island in general, was caused by attacks of Vikings. Soon they began to found settlements on coast of the island. In particular Dublin, Limerick, Waterford. Only at the beginning of the 11th century Irish under leadership of the Supreme King Brian Tudor defeated Vikings. Brian Tudor died in decisive fight at Clontarf in 1014. At the end of the 12th century the part of the territory of Ireland is subdued by British at the King Henry II. The English barons took control of lands of the Irish clans and introduced the English laws and a control system. The conquered area was called the outskirts. English the Pale. And both on management and on further development differed markedly from not subdued yet, so-called Wild Ireland in which British constantly sought to do new gains. When Robert Bruce seized the Scottish crown and successfully led war with England, the Irish leaders asked him for the help of the minding general enemy. The brother his Edward arrived with army in 1315 and was proclaimed by Irish the king, but after the 3 Years' War which terribly devastated the island, he was killed in battle with British. However, in 1348 the Black Death, which exterminated almost all British who lived in the cities where mortality was especially high, came to Ireland. After plague the power of British stretched not further Dublin. During the English Reformation Irish remained Catholics that created the split which lived up to now between two islands. In 1536 Henry VIII suppressed a mutiny of Silk Thomas Fitzgerald, the English protégé in Ireland, and decided to win the island anew. In 1541 Henry proclaimed Ireland a kingdom, and himself her king. Within the next 100 years, at Elizabeth and James I, British strengthened control over Ireland, though couldn't make Irish Protestants. However, all English administration consisted only of Anglican Protestants. During the Civil War in England the English control over the island strongly weakened, and Catholic Irish rose against Protestants, having temporarily created Confederative Ireland. But in 1649 in Ireland there arrived Oliver Cromwell with numerous and skilled army, took by storm the city of Drogheda near Dublin and Wexford. In Drogheda Cromwell ordered to kill all garrison and Catholic priests, and in Wexford the army made slaughter already self-willedly. Within 9 months Cromwell conquered almost all Ireland, and then gave the administration to the son-in-law Ayrton, who continued the begun business. Cromwell's purpose was to put an end to disorders on the island by replacement of the Irish Catholics who were forced either to leave the country, or to move on the west to Connacht, meanwhile as their lands were distributed to the English colonists, mostly to Cromwell's soldiers. In 1641 more than 1.5 million people lived in Ireland, and in 1652 there were only 850,000. From which 150,000 were the English and Scottish new settlers. In 1689, during the Nice Revolution, Irish supported the English King James II, displaced by William of Orange for what paid again. As a result of the English colonization, indigenous Irish almost completely lost the land possession. A new ruling layer consisting of Protestants, natives of England and Scotland was created. In 1798, with assistance of France, the Irish Revolt was developed. Despite initial success, it ended with defeat of Risen. In 1801, Ireland became a part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Irish began to be forced out by English. At the beginning of the 19th century, about 86% of the population of Ireland were engaged in agriculture, in which enslaving forms of operation dominated. Ireland served as one of sources of accumulation of the English capitals and development of the industry in England. The Agrarian Revolution began with the middle of the 1840th years. Falling of price of bread. After cancellation in 1846 in England of grain laws, induced landowners to begin intensive transition from the system of small country rent to large-scale pasturable enterprise. Process of ISCON of small tenants from the earth. So-called cleaning of manners. Amplified. Cancellation of grain laws and diseases of potatoes, which were the main culture at land. Poor Irish peasants, led to severe famine of 1845-1849. As a result of hunger, about 1 million people died. Considerably the emigration. From 1846 to 1851 left 1.5 million people, which became constant line of historical development of Ireland increased. As a result, in 1841-1851 the population of Ireland was reduced by 30%. And further, Ireland promptly lost the population. If in 1841 the population was 8,178,000 people, then in 1901, only 4,459,000. In 1919, the Irish Republican Army, IRA, developed active fighting against the English troops and police. On April 15, 27, 1919, in the territory of the county of the same name, there is a Republic, the Limerick Council. In December 1921, the peace treaty between Great Britain and Ireland was signed. Ireland received the status of the Dominion, the so-called Irish Free State, except for 6 northeast counties of Northern Ireland, which are most developed industrially, with prevalence of Protestants who remained as a part of the United Kingdom. However, Great Britain kept military bases, the right to redemption payments for the former possession of the English landlords in the territory of Ireland. In 1937, the country accepted the official name Ire. During World War II, Ireland kept a neutrality. In 1949, Ireland was proclaimed the independent republic. It was announced a republic exit from the British Commonwealth. Only in the 1960th years emigration from Ireland stopped, an increase in population was noted. In 1973, Ireland became the member of the European Economic Community. In the 1990s, Ireland entered the period of the rapid economic growth, continuing till 2007. Her GDP per capita exceeded an indicator of Great Britain. For the first time in the history, Germany and the EU in general. However, with approach of the global financial crisis of 2008, the economy of Ireland tested the sharp slowdown connected with export reduction, problems in the construction industry and the banking sector. According to the World Bank, in 2008 reduction of GDP was 4.44%, and in 2009, 5.07%, budget deficit, €1 billion. After crisis, the economy of Ireland developed the accelerated rates again. The GDP per capita of Ireland in 2020 exceeded an indicator of Great Britain twice, an indicator of Germany more than for 70%. As a result of the referendum which took place on May 22, 2015, Ireland became the first country in the world which legalized same-sex marriages by national vote. The existing constitution is adopted as a result of a plebiscite on July 1, 1937, came into force on December 29, 1937. However, in spite of the fact that she confirmed independence of the country of Great Britain, the last constitutional links between the states are broken only in 1948, after adoption of law on the Irish Republic. Is later to her 23 amendments, last of which were adopted. See the referendum in Ireland on the Treaty of Lisbon. Belonged to 2009. The official text of the Constitution contains 16 sections consisting of 50 articles. The coat of arms of Ireland represents a gold harp with silver strings on a blue board. The harp long time was a heraldic symbol of Ireland. In a modern look, the coat of arms is approved on November 9, 1945. The flag of Ireland is a national symbol of Ireland. The flag has proportions 1:2 and consists of 3 strips, green, white and orange, in the sequence from left to right. Green colour symbolizes Catholics, orange, Protestants, white the world between two communities. The national anthem of Ireland, the Soldier's Song. Amar nach Féin, which is known also under the English name English the Soldier's Song. Initially the text was written in 1907 by Peter Kearney in English. Then, together with Patrick Heaney, music was written, and Liam O'Rinn translated the text into Irish. For the first time the lyrics was published in English by Balmer Hobson in the Irlandskaya Svoboda newspaper. Irish Freedom. In 1912. The song became popular among the Irish Republicans and was executed by rebels during the Easter Revolt of 1916, and later, and in the British prison camps. The Irish text for the first time was published on November 3, 1923 in the magazine of the Irish Forces of Defence in Taughlach. In 1934 the Government of Ireland redeemed copyright of the song for £1,200 sterling. The supreme body of legislature, Parliament. Ticonaractish, Tidan O'Reilly's Council. Which part of the President and 2 chambers. House of Representatives. Dáil and Senate. Senate Éireann. Dáil Éireann, Meeting of Ireland. From 160 to 170 dicks elected by the population on the basis of general direct and a ballot on the system of proportional representation. Those meetings are conducted by the head of the council. Sheen Comharrow. Elected by Dáil. Senate of Ireland. Seanad Éireann. Consists of 60 dicks, from which 11 are appointed the Prime Minister, 6 are elected national and Dublin the universities, are chosen 43 by indirect elections according to special lists. Candidates are proposed for these lists by various organizations and associations. The electoral board at elections to the Senate consists approximately of 900 people, including of members of the House of Representatives, members of councils of counties and municipalities. A term of office of both chambers up to 7 years. Meetings of the Senate of Ireland are conducted by the chairman. Cathaoirleach, chairman, which has a deputy. Lís Cathaoirleach. Fine Gael, the Labour Party, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin and the Joint Left Alliance. The coalition of the small left-wing parties are represented in Dáil Éireann and the Senate Éireann. Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin are represented in the European Parliament. The President of Ireland, officially in Irish called Uachtaráin, generally ceremonial post, is chosen the population for 7 years. The President has the right of convocation and dissolution of the lower house of Parliament at the initiative of the government. He will publish laws, appoints judges and other highest officials, heads armed forces. The actual chief executive is thousands. Taoiseach, leader. The Prime Minister nominated by the House of Representatives and approved as the President. Also the Deputy Prime Minister is a part of the government. Thánaist. From among members of the government. The structure of the government is regulated by the Constitution of Ireland. According to the Constitution, the government has to consist of 15 members of the Cabinet. Each member of the government has to be the Deputy of Parliament of Ireland, at the same time deputies of the Senate, Upper House of National Parliament. There can be no more than 2 members of the Cabinet. Especially makes a reservation that the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance have to be deputies of the House of Representatives, Dáil Éireann. The Prime Minister is appointed the President on representation Dáil Éireann. The Prime Minister submits Dáil Éireann of the candidate of members of the Cabinet who are approved as the President for approval. Members of the government usually are called ministers of an office, unlike the so-called state ministers, or junior ministers, who aren't included into the government. Sometimes the government includes the minister without briefcase, which is the member of the government, but not the minister of the government. The Supreme Judicial Authority, the Supreme Court. Court Uachtarach. Courts of the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Courts. Archúrt. Courts of First Instance, District Courts. Siúd Chomharda. The lowest link of the judicial system, District Courts. Siúd Díoch. Data on the number of places to the House of Representatives of Ireland following the results of parliamentary elections of 2011, as a result of which the government headed by the leader of the Fine Gael Enda Kenny is created by the coalition of the Fine Gael and Labourists. The existing system of local state bodies is created under the Law about Local State Bodies, N of 1898 and fixed in 1999 by the 20th Amendment of N to the Constitution of Ireland. There are 26 traditional counties. Under the law about reform of local state bodies, N of 2014, the system from 31 local state bodies minus 26 councils of counties, 2 county councils and the cities. Limerick, Waterford. 3 city councils. Galway, Dublin and Cork. Is provided. Administrative units of the second level, except for the Dublin district and 3 city councils. Municipal districts which replace the existing system of city councils are provided. The Supreme Commander of the Irish Army is the President, and direct management of armed forces is performed by the Minister of Defence, at whom the Advisory Board works. Grand forces total about 8,500 people. The territory of the country is divided in the administrative and operational relation into 3 areas. 1 infantry brigade is deployed in each of which. The 1st Southern Crew is located in Cork. The 2nd East Crew in Dublin. The 4th Western Crew in Athlone are adopted. Small arms, Stair Auguste and Mag Emma B. Browning and M. Anti-tank means Carl Gustaf at an GGM-148 Javelin. Artillery systems Hotchkiss Brandt, Denel Vector M, Allen KS 25 pounder. Anti-aircraft weapons, Bofors Allen Rebers -70. The armored equipment, Ammo -20, Ammo -90, Moog Piranha and Ev the Scorpion. The number of naval forces of Ireland is 1144 people, ship structure -8 patrol ships. The main base is on the island of Holboulin in the Gulf Cork. The ships bear the traditional Irish women's names taken from history and the Celtic mythology. Names are preceded by the prefix. Lon Irenic, Irish ship. Leimer. B. Lauf. B. Laisling. B. Leighton. B. La Orla. B. La Sierra. B. La Roisin. B. La Naim. B. All of them are constructed during the period from 1978 to 2001. About 920 people serve in the Air Case of Ireland, 24 air units are adopted. Planes, Cossack N-235, Pilatus PC-9M, Cessna Free H, Beechcraft Super King Air 200, Gulfstream Aerospace Gulfstream 4 and Bombardier Learjet 45. Helicopters, Augusta Westland A and Eurocopter EC. The basis for the Air Force is in Dublin. The police in Ireland carry the name Garda Síochána. Garda Síochána na hÉireann. Structure number, about 14. 5,000 people. The country is divided into regions. Dublin East, Northern, Western, Southern and South East, which in turn consist of departments and sections where police stations are located. Among the Garda's functions there is a protection of public order, immigration policy, prevention and disclosure of crimes, control of traffic safety, ensuring national security. The modern foreign policy of the Republic of Ireland is in many respects caused by her membership in the European Union, though a bilateral relationship with the United States and the United Kingdom is also important for the country. Ireland strives for independence in foreign policy, therefore it isn't a member of NATO and long ago pursues policy of a military neutrality. In 1955 Ireland became the member of the Union, and since 1958 her troops participate in peacekeeping actions. The population of Ireland, generally Celtic origin. According to a general census of 2006, it makes 4.24 million people. Ethnic minorities make 420,000, that is 10%. 275. 8,000 immigrants from the European Union countries. Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania. The others, from Russia, China, Ukraine, Belarus, Pakistan, Philippines, Nigeria. As of 2019, by estimates of the Union immigrants, a 17.1% of the population of the country lived in Ireland. From 1840th years, when the population of the regions entering now the Republic Ireland made about 6.5 million, and to the 1970th there was a continuous reduction of population, generally because of the high level of emigration. Annual increase in population in the 1980th was only 0.5%, and by 2000 gain slowed down up to 0.41%. According to a census 2016, in the cities of all levels lived, inhabitants 69.93%. While in 2011, according to a census, the number of citizens was, inhabitants 69.28%. For the inter-census period, the number of citizens grew by 4.76%, and the share of citizens increased by 0.65%. According to a population census of 2016, the indigenous people makes about 83%, including 0.7% of the Irish travellers. Another 2.6% didn't specify nationality. Natives of Europe make 9.5% of the population. Stand rather large diasporas of the British, Poles and Balts alone. Of Asia -2.1%, black -1. 3%, others -1.5%. State languages of the Republic of Ireland: Irish and English. The Government of Ireland undertakes measures for replacement of English with the reviving Irish. He is studied at schools as an obligatory subject. He is used on national television and radio. RTÉ channels. The channel is intended generally for children. Law. In April 2005, the law under which all English language signs on the western coast of the country are replaced with the Irish is adopted. According to the new law, have to be translated into Irish, and toponymic designations in Gaeltachta territories where positions of Irish are strongest can't be duplicated by the English names. By results of a population census of 2016 on Irish. Gaelic. 76 million residents of the country in a varying degree could talk. It is more than at a population census of 1996. 1.43 million. But it is a little less than by the time of the census of 2011. 1.77 million. He is Irish in daily communication, however, only 73803 persons. about 1.5% of all population. Powerful part of them compactly lives in rural areas, along the western coast of the country. See Gaeltacht. In Ireland, among religions, the Christianity, among churches, Catholic Church prevails. The Constitution of Ireland says that the state can support any religion, and guarantees freedom of worship. In 2006, 86.8% of the population carried themselves to the Roman Catholic Church. That is 1.4% less than 4 years ago, though the number of Catholics increased by 218,800 people. The gross internal product of Ireland in 2009 made $172.5 billion, that is 7.1% lower in relation to the level of 2008. The GDP per capita was about $38.7 thousand, 2009. Falling of indicators resulted from an economic crisis of 2008-2009 from which the banking and financial system of Ireland strongly suffered. In 2010, thanks to support of the EU, it was succeeded to reduce rates of falling of economic indicators. The GDP fell up to $172.5 billion, and in numerical expression per capita up to $39,000. Unemployment in the country as of November 2010 makes 13.5%. In pre-crisis time, since the beginning of the 1990s till 2008, the term Celtic Tiger was applied to the description of economy of Ireland. From 1996 to 2007, the GDP of the country increased on average by 7.1% a year, that exceeded not only world indicators 2%, but also indicators of the fast-growing Asian countries 4.3%. Among the factors which provided the Celtic economic miracle, calls such as accession to the European Union and Eurozone, investment into information technologies, telecommunications, healthcare and pharmaceutics, international and financial services, production of software products, electronic commerce. An investment in education, reform of labor market and a tax system. By 2002 the tax rate for all companies reached 12.5%, that meant radical decrease for the local companies. Investments from the USA, including from Americans of the Irish origin. Low entrance barriers, including language. In the fall of 2010, the banking sector, the real estate market and the budget of the country strongly suffered from consequences of the global financial crisis. The government was forced to reduce several thousands of jobs, to lower salaries, to impose new taxes, and also to ask for the help the European Union and the IMF for a loan about 85 billion euros. On a condition of 2018, the average amount of compensation in Ireland is Euro 3,300 gross and Euro 2,564 net in a month. Since January 1, 2019, the minimum wage makes Euro 1,563.25 gross and Euro 1,509 net in month, and Euro 9.80 gross in hour. Earlier the country used Irish pound or pund as the national currency, and in 1999 Ireland was among 11 states of the EU which entered in the territory single European currency, euro. Banknotes face values in 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 and 500 have the general design as well as at other countries on the continent, however coins have an own registration. On them are represented the Celtic harp, a traditional symbol of Ireland and also year of release and the word Ire. By the beginning of the 21st century, key industries of economy of Ireland are pharmaceutics, production of the medical equipment, information and multimedia of technology, mechanical engineering, food industry. The electronic industry of Ireland consists of the following sectors: accessories, computers, semiconductors, development and production of the software, telecommunication and information communications. On total production in these sectors, Ireland takes the 19th place in the world. The country has advantage before the European neighbours thanks to big investments from Shaw, to low costs of production and trade activity, big flexibility of labour, to high performance level and existence of close ties between educational institutions and the industrial enterprises. In Ireland there are subsidiaries of 6 largest global manufacturers in the sphere of IT, IP, Intel, Hewlett-Packard, Dell, Oracle, Microsoft and also about 300 more large local companies which altogether give about 1/3 of all export of the country. Also in Ireland a great number of large producers of pharmaceutical products: Lipta, Zoker, Waite, Schering-Plough, Merck and Olorado. Pfizer, Novartis, Allergan, GlaxoSmithKline, etc. And also several companies on production of the medical equipment: Boston Scientific, Becton Dickinson, Bausch & Lomb, Abbott, Johnson & Johnson and Stryker is located. The most part of the pharmaceutical plants is in the southern part of Ireland. About 1/3 from 150 companies which are releasing a farm production, small local firms. They produce, generally generics, vitamins and dietary supplements and also execute orders of foreign producers. In the sphere of mechanical engineering, the industry on production of the agricultural equipment is most developed. Several Irish companies are world leaders in this area. Their products are used in cattle breeding, the dairy industry, crop production. Light industry in Ireland is presented by generally small and medium business. An annual export of the industry in general makes €1 billion a year. Traditionally here products from wool, linen, silk, cloths, napkins, carpets, scarves, shawls, etc. are made. Some companies unite under the general brands, like Fabric Ireland, for entry into the New World markets. Among branches of manufacturing industry, the big share is occupied by the food and flavoring industry. In the country, beer, whiskey, dairy and meat products, flour, sugar, the tobacco products and other goods having important export value is traditionally made. The power industry of Ireland is based on consumption of natural gas, coal, peat and oil and presented mainly to combined heat and power plants which generate up to 95% of the electric power. The world's largest power plants work in the country. Edenderry -128 megawatts. Lanesborough -150 MW. Westhoffley -150 MW. Using peat. Develop more than 15% of the electric power. Only 4% of the general electricity generation fall to the share of hydroelectric power stations. In total in the country about 1.574 million tons are developed. And at the same time up to 13.353 million tons it is at imported as of 2002. Now in the Irish market of energy carriers the forefront is come by the Bord Gas Company and also smaller players. Viridianus Energia V, Flogas and Gazprom Marketing and Trading Limited, subsidiary of Gazprom. In Ireland the considerable efforts on increase in use of renewable and steady forms of energy, in particular, of wind power, with use of a large number of wind electricity power stations along coastal areas are used. The contribution of mining industry to GDP of Ireland makes about 3%. Ireland is rich with such minerals as zinc, 9 million tons, lead, 1.7 million tons, silver, 1 million tons, barite, 1 million tons. There are also confirmed gold reserves, 5,000 tons, copper, 110,000 tons, coal, 29 million tons, and natural gas, 20 billion m. Deposits of coal and the mine on his production are concentrated in the counties of Kilkenny and Carlow. In the central part of Ireland the post-magmatic zinc-lead field of Shelly Silver Mains. Near Avoca is Copperty Field. Extraction of sand, gravel and stone for needs of the construction industry for lack of a variety and enough mineral resources is conducted. The main mineral in the country is peat, which extraction goes at the level of 5 million tons per year. At the same time his processing for needs of power is conducted by 2 torfobriquetiny plants. The leading role in agriculture of Ireland is played by livestock production. About 80% of GDP in this sector of economy fall to his share. Under pastures about 2 million hectares are used. At this livestock 7 million heads of cattle and 4 million sheep consist of 11 million heads of a bird. Main products of this industry: milk and dairy products, about 5 million tons per year. Beef, wool. The areas which are engaged in cultivation of Keers are concentrated on the south and the east of the country and also near Dublin. Pig breeding is drawn towards the western counties. The largest producers of beef are united in BIAS. English the Beef Quality Assurance Scheme. Pork and Paws. English Pig Meat Quality Assurance Scheme. Eggs and ECAS. English Egg Quality Assurance Scheme, etc., which represent control systems of quality of products both at the farmer level and on processing enterprises. The main crops: wheat, oats, potatoes, barley and sugar beet. They occupy nearly 240,000 hectares of grounds. In Ireland about 140,000 family farms which average size reaches 29 hectares. The main agricultural grounds are in the southern, central and east regions of the country. Some counties specialise in certain grades for crops. In Cork and Wicklow give preference to a winter wheat and barley. In Carlow cultivate oats with colza and tea. In coastal waters of Ireland intensive fishery is conducted. As of 2001, about 1.4 thousand vessels which extracted up to 300,000 tons of fish participated in trade. Main trade types: herring, anchovy, haddock, cod, mackerel. The largest fishing ports: Dunleer, Scaris, Dublin and its vicinities. Also in the country, the aquaculture actively develops. Irish successfully breed a trout, mussels, salmons, lobsters. Since the beginning of the old years of the authority of the country strictly watch this branch of economy. In total in Ireland 7 regional committees for fisheries monitoring implementation of laws on environmental protection and rules of fishery work. The state licenses need to be obtained for fishing, in particular, of a salmon and a sea trout in any part of Ireland. Besides, it is necessary to mark and consider each caught individual. The adopted uniform program of management of fish farms of the country is designed to protect and reduce death of fish as a result of pollution of water resources or actions of poachers, to increase a livestock, to increase the culture of fishery. In general, agriculture of Ireland is subsidized. Since the beginning of the 1990th years, the state subsidies increased almost twice, from 400 million to 800 million euros. At the same time, 2/3 of them it was the share of cattle breeding, and 15% of cultivation grain. About 120 million euros subsidies fell to the share of fishery by 2009. The main body which regulates financial services in the country is the Central Bank of Ireland. His purpose: maintenance of stability in the Eurozone and also development and realization of uniform monetary policy, carrying out operations with foreign currency, management of official currency reserves, etc. In Ireland, all main European banking institutions, which are divided into 3 main categories, are presented. Clearing banks, trade and commercial banks, industrial banks. The largest of them: National Irish Banks, Ulster Bank, Bank of Ireland, Allied Irish Banks, Anglo-Irish Bank, Ibs Bank, Ix Building Society, Axanc, etc. The Irish Stock Exchange appeared in 1793 and is one of the oldest exchanges in Europe. The key stock index is ISEC 20, which includes 20 companies with the largest trading volume and the greatest capitalization. The base of calculation of the index includes the following companies: Aer Lingus Group, Arista, Bank of Ireland, Free, C&C Group, Fifths, Dragon O, Greenwright, Fadedeed Holdings, Glanbia, Irish Continental Group, Kenmare Resources, Origin Enterprises, Providence Resources, Kerry Group, Kingspan Group, Paddy Power, Ryanair, Smurfit Kappa Group, Total Produce. As a result of financial crisis of 2008-2011, banks strongly suffered as a result of a collapse in domestic market of the real estate. As builders took the essential place in the loan portfolio of the Irish financial institutions. Builders invested several billion euros in the overestimated land plots and speculated on the arable land. The credits at the same time grew to 28% of all set of a bank loan of the country, that is became approximately equal to the sum of all public deposits in retail banks. In 2008, the government announced measures for rescue of a banking system of the country. The state guarantees, which covered everything, deposits, bonds, were given and are long. However, the situation only worsened and market capitalization failed. Then the state made the decision to nationalize Anglo-Irish Bank, which market capitalization had less than 2% of her peak in 2007. after the two more big banks, which at the beginning of 2009 had fall of stocks to 50% a day, fell off. In 2010, after long refusals of the help of the EU, Ireland nevertheless decided to take the credit for the help to banks from Special European Fund of 80-90 billion euros under 5% per annum. Historically, an important role in structure of a foreign trade turnover of Ireland is played by the neighbouring Great Britain, which is one of the main trade partners of the country. However, within the last 20 years, decrease in volumes of economic relations is observed. So in 1983, export of Ireland to the United Kingdom was equal to 38%, and import from there -49%. That by 2005 these indicators fell up to 18% and 31% respectively. At the same time, the role of trade relations with the USA steadily increased within the last 15 years due to active investment of the capital by the American companies into the economy of Ireland. It was shown in growth of volumes of the Irish export to North America, which grew from 10% in 1983-1990 to 20% in 2004. Import from the USA during this time also steadily increased, almost up to 16% in 2005. Considerable strengthening of trade interrelations with Europe began after transition of the country to currency euro. The volume of export to the EU grew during 1970-2000 from 21% to 45%. Nevertheless, Ireland is the only EU member state which has two countries which aren't belonging to the Eurozone as the main trade partners. Trade with the Asian states also significantly grew within the last 20 years, that is shown in import volumes. It trebled, having reached an indicator in 18% of the general indicator, and the volume of export of Ireland to Asia trebled and is equal to 10%. In particular, China became the fourth after the USA, Great Britain and Germany the supplier of import goods to Ireland. Main sales markets of food products: Great Britain 39%, Continental Europe 35%, other countries 26%. In the general share of export of products of the food industry, first place is won by milk 32%, beef 22%, semi-finished products 19%, and drinks 12%. The others have lower indicators: pork and poultry 6%, seafood 4%, mutton 3%, vegetables 2%. Ireland imports a large number of energy carriers for the needs up to 90% of natural gas necessary for her. As of 2017, the volume of export was $159 billion, and import -$84 billion, positive balance of foreign trade -$75.2 billion. Nearly 56% of export. In 2017, I fell on chemical goods, including the packed medicines 17%. On the second place were industrial and household machines, the equipment and electronics 15.7%. Including integrated circuits 4.6%. Other export was made by devices and tools 9.1%. Including medical and orthopedic 6.9%. Food products and semi-finished products, including malt extract 1.4%. Beef, 1.1%. Various dairy goods. Main buyers: USA, 25%. Great Britain, 12%. Belgium and Luxembourg, 9.7%. In import chemical goods, semi-finished products, 21.7%. Vehicles, 18.3%. Mainly aviation equipment, 16%. And cars, 3.2%. And also other industrial goods, including computers and office appliances, up to 17.5% prevailed. Chief suppliers: Great Britain, 25%. USA, 21%. Germany, 10%. The main tax in Ireland is a tax on individuals, that is income tax. There are also taxes on increase in market value of the capital, on gain of the capital, including a succession duty, municipal taxes, a tax on income on real estate, and stamp duties on transactions with the real estate. In Ireland, taxation of individuals is carried out by the principle of accommodation and the principle of registration. All inhabitants pay according to the pay-as-you-earn system, that is every week or every month the tax keeps from the employer. The people who are engaged in the business are responsible for payment of the taxes, according to the self-assessment system. A tax standard, from 20% to minimum acceptable income level. All income exceeding this level is already assessed with a tax of 42%. In 1990, 200 years, Ireland became one of the world's largest corporate offshore zones. Double Irish with the Dutch sandwich. That positively affected progress on involvement of the international financial institutions. If the offshore company is in Ireland, her income gained worldwide gets under the Irish corporate taxation. However, benefits which the firm can take in this case consist in an opportunity to lower tax rates to the level of 10% and to use the tax agreements concluded by Ireland with other countries for mitigation of the Irish and foreign taxes. The production tax with the slow tax is understood as several spheres of economic activity, among which works in the chemical, electric, mechanical industry and civil engineering, which are carried out outside the countries entering into economic community. Industrial cultivation of fish and cultivation of mushrooms. Repair and service of planes or sea vessels. Certain types of computer processing of databases and service. Export of goods through special trading house. Cultivation of the plants which are grown up by method of microcultivation or vegetative reproduction. Production of a photo, film and recorder film, etc. The preferential mode attracted banks and the foreign capital to the country. So, for example, the Dublin International Centre of Financial Services, IFSC, specializes in processing of bank information for Citibank, Merrill Lynch, Daewoo, ABN AMRO and 400 more foreign banks. However, he actually can be even less, as higher rates of depreciation of assets are allowed. Ireland has very wide network of agreements on elimination of double taxation, which contains 15 contracts. Tax agreements, different in degree and the nature of privileges, are signed with various countries. According to these agreements, almost completely from taxes, at a source % on loans, payments of a royalty, rent payments are exempted from possession of planes and the real estate. As for dividends, the tax regime depends on tax agreements and the domestic tax law of each country. Significant tax economy at operations on the translation of dividends is provided by tax agreements with Belgium, Denmark, Scotland, Germany, Luxembourg, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Russia. Is she part of the transport system of Ireland as public property? Networks of highways of Ireland developed in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland independently, while the railway system was generally created before division of Ireland. In Ireland, the Minister of Transport deals with the state road and railway networks, public transport, the airports and some other issues, acting through Department of Transport. Though some sites of highways were built at the expense of private or state-private funds, and have the status of paved roads, they are owned by the Government of Ireland. The railway system also belongs and is operated by the state, while only the main airports belong to the government. Public transport is in the basic in hands of the company established by the law, Córas Impair Éireann, CIE, and her divisions, Bus Athacliath, the Dublin Bus, Bus Éireann, Bus Transportations, and Iron Rod Éireann, Rail Transportation. On November 1, 2005, the government published the Plan of Transport 21, in which expenses of €18 million for development of the road message and €16 million the railroads are put, including Western Railway Corridor and the Dublin Subway. Tourism in Ireland is one of important sectors of economy, as the country is annually visited by more than 6.2 million people, that is about 1.4 times more than own population of Ireland. More than people are engaged in tourism industry of Ireland, and the annual tourism revenue is about €5 billion. In 2011, readers of Lonely Planet recognized Ireland as the best vacation spot in the world, the city of Cork, one of 10 best cities of the world, and the Irish website Discoverlord.com was called the best tourist website in the world. Most of the tourists visiting Ireland come from Great Britain, the USA, Germany and France. In 2016, average life expectancy in Ireland equaled to 81 years and 8 months. Education in the Republic of Ireland is 3-stage. Initial, average and the highest. Academic year begins in September and comes to an end in May. Education is obligatory for all children aged from 6 up to 16 years, added to Saxton 3 years on the second education level and passed examination on junior certificate. Probably preschool training for children since 4 years. The main remained Paleo-era monuments, graves and monuments which noted places of burials earlier. Some of the most known in the territory of Ireland dolmens, massive 3 main constructions, were erected 4,000–5,000 years ago. One more special form of burial, a grave gallery, for example, Newgrange. The very first Irish fortresses are dated a Bronze Age and represent round forts on earth and stone to a shaft with a paling and a ditch around. One of such was reconstructed in the County Cork near Clonakilty. Some strengthenings were already at the time built entirely from a stone, for example, in Inishmore on the islands of Aran Islands. In the 5th century the Christianity came to Ireland, and on all island construction of churches began. Originally, they were quite simple, covered by a triarchal knockamany. With the advent of monasteries and growth of their influence also the sizes of constructions increased. For example, the monastery in the Valley Glendalough or cathedrals of Clonmacnoise. Also, round towers with conic roofs became one of architectural symbols of the time. During attacks of Vikings at the end of the beginning of the 10th centuries they were based everywhere through the whole country, and were, at the same time, both shelters and observation posts. In 1169 together with Normans the Gothic style came to Ireland. High vaulted windows and V-shaped arches. Striking examples, Christchurch Church in Dublin and St. Canice's Cathedral in the county of Kilkenny. During Bord Fort Jorgav, 1714-1837. Considerably changed architectural appearance of the largest cities of the country. So, Dublin began to be built up in the corresponding Georgiansky style with graceful houses with terraces from a red brick, with small windows and carved doorways. However, in the middle of the 20th century a set of constructions of the time quite strongly suffered. Some samples remain near Merrion Square. For years of the English domination in Ireland the set of classical estates in Palladiansky style, for example, Castletown, 1722. Near Selbridge and Rasborough the House, 1741. Near Blessington was built. The German architect Richard Castles, who arrived to Ireland in 1728, became the author of many constructions, signed for the Irish architecture. Leinster House in Dublin and Powerscourt in the county of Wicklow. Current architectural trends long enough didn't get into Ireland. The first building in modernist style, the Central Bus Station of Dublin, was built here only in 1950 on Michael Scott's project. His works inspired many Irish architects, and in 1967 Berkeley Library in Capital Trinity College. The author, Paul Corlick, was proclaimed the best example of modern Irish architecture. Since the beginning of the 1980th years rather much attention from the authorities and society began to be paid to architectural heritage in the form of historical buildings, monuments, locks and temples. So, in Dublin earlier abandoned ancient area Temple Bar was restored. Besides, the construction boom led to emergence in the capital and its vicinities of a large number of modern eclectic constructions. For example, Financial Services Centre and Custom House Square. The Irish literature, the third oldest literature of Europe, after Greek and Roman. Our ancestor it is considered to be Saint Patrick. The 5th century is author of the Confession, written in Latin. Three representatives of Ireland got Nobel Prizes on literature. William Butler Yeats, 1923. Samuel Beckett, 1969. Seamus Heaney, 1995. Among the largest British writers there are many Irish on the birth or closely connected with Ireland. J. Swift O. Goldsmith R. B. Sheridan, Maria Edgeworth T. Mayne Reid O. Wilde A. Conan Doyle, Bernard Shaw, etc. The Irish art during the period of the English domination was considered usually within the English school of painting. After the 17th century, many Irish painters and sculptors reached popularity, therefore it is possible to speak about formation of the Irish school of painting. The sources and specified 1674 days. The Irish painters George Barrett and Nathaniel Hunt Sr., together with Sir Joshua Reynolds, were co-founders of Royal Academy in 1768. James Arthur O'Connor was a prominent artist landscape writer of the period, and Daniel Maclist created world-famous frescoes in Royal Gallery of the House of Lords. Among the Irish painters of the 19th century, the European fame was gained by Nathaniel Honder and Walter F. Osborne, and also the post-impressionist Roderick O'Connor. Jack Butler Yeats, the son of the artist John Butler Yeats and the brother of the poet William Butler Yeats, is nowadays recognized as one of the leading masters of Expressionism. In recent time gained recognition of work of the Cubistic artist Maine Jellett and the master of a church-stained glass window Evie Hahn. The Irish musicians were known everywhere in Europe by the 12th century. The blind harpist Turlough O'Carolan, who composed about 200 compositions, generally for the patrons, was the best known of them. The Irish folk music is very different. From lullabies to drinking songs, from slow tool melodies before fast incendiary dances, and in them the huge role is occupied by use of variations and nuances of a rhythm and melody. The traditional Irish dance music includes Rila, musical size 4/. The Irish jig, size 6/8, is most widespread, and hornpipe. Since the beginning of the 19th century, the pole introduced by dance teachers and soldiers who came back from Europe is popular in Ireland. Setvi dances presumably exist since the 18th century. Later, as option Scottish in Ireland, the mazurka appeared. In the 20th century, revival of the Irish tradition began. The accordion and a concertino became popular. The competitions in the Irish step and Cayley, which are widely supported by an educational system, and the patriotic organizations began to be held. The sean-nós became popular. Sean-nós, Old Style. Style of performance of songs and dances on old manners. Thanks to broad emigration of Irish in the USA, the Irish music became widely known in America, and from there, worldwide. The musicians who visited tours, in turn, made pro-American changes to the style of execution. Ireland participated in a song contest, the Eurovision. Comórtas Amarnata Nahi Orifis. Annually since 1965, except 1983 and 2002. The country of 7 times won first place, 4 times the second, once the third. The first national theatre in Ireland, Theatre of Abbey, was opened in Dublin on December 27, 1904. The history of development of the Irish theatre is closely connected with the War of Independence of the country, which was taking place in the years of his formation. Troopers of Theatre of Abbey participated in her. Irish solo dances. Their distinctive feature are fast and accurate movements by legs at the cases and hands remaining motionless. The Irish solo dances were created by the Irish masters of dance in the 18th and 19th centuries and rather rigidly standardized by the Commission on the Irish Dances at the beginning of the 20th century in Ireland as a result of activity of the Gaelic League that allowed to create over 10 numerous school of the masters capable to execute repetitive dancing technique. The staginess of Riverdance and similar shows is based on this equipment. Irish Céilí, Sealy. The pair and group dances which are based on standard steps of the Irish solo dances. Céilí schemes are also formalized by the Commission on the Irish Dances. Production figure dances. English choreographed figure dances are based on standard solo Irish dances and Céilí's figures, but are focused on a Massachusetts action of many dancers at once within the production shows. In this connection allow various derogations from standards for increase in staginess. As a result of development of this direction, Riverdance and other not less known Irish dancing shows were created. Set dances. Fair Irish social dances, unlike Céilí, are based on rather simple steps of the French quadrilles. Sean-nós, Sean-nós. A special style of performance of traditional Irish songs and dances which isn't affected by activity of masters of dance and the Gaelic League, and remained in the Irish region of Connemara. During the English colonization of Ireland, the mother country continuously pursued all manifestations of the Irish culture. Retaliatory laws, which were entered by British in the middle of the 17th century, forbade training of Irish to something, including music and dances. Growth of interest in the Irish dances arose after the performance of the show, Riverdance, on the Eurovision of 1994. Many movies in Ireland underwent censorship in the past or were even forbidden by her, generally because of influence of Catholic Church. Irish Film Classification Office adheres to views according to which the viewer himself can make a choice, and sets as the purpose studying and classification of movies. In general, the Irish film industry grows recently, and the number of the people occupied in it grew since 1000 to 6000 during 2003-2009. In Ireland, a number of public holidays is celebrated. Christmas, the street, Patrick's Day, Easter and others belong to such holidays. A system of postponement of dates of celebration depending on day of the week on which they drop out is provided. In everyday life, oil, milk, cheeses, fish are used. The Irish breakfast toasts, fried eggs, sausages, bacon, a white pudding and a black pudding. Tomatoes enter from fast food. Fish and chips are popular. Irish stew belongs to traditional dishes. Potatoes became a main course in a diet of the Irish, especially poor, since the 18th century. The sport in Ireland is popular and widespread. Levels of participation of the population in sports tournaments are high, but in the western areas participation goes down because of the increasing popularity of other things, such as television and computer games. In the country there is a wide diverse selection of sports meets, the most popular of them, the Gaelic soccer and boxing. 34% of athletes play football, 23% boxing. The Gaelic soccer and boxing consider national sport of Ireland. Traditional Irish game sports are regulated by the Gaelic Sports Association, uniting card amateur athletes. More than 85 internet service providers act in the country. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.